Graphing quadratic functions. Make a table and graph. Find and label a vertex, axis of symmetry, and x and y-intercepts. What I want you to do is understand the basics of a quadratic functions graph, which will end up giving us a parabola. We do not use that. There's a formula that you've seen before, negative something. We're not going to use that unless you can prove it. So what we're going to start off right now is making a table. We'll plug in a negative, 0, and a positive. We plug in the negative and we have negative 1 squared is 1, minus 2 minus 3, so that gives us negative 4. 0 will give us negative 3. 1 plus 2 minus 3 gives us 0. Let's plot those points. We have label our scale, plus or minus 5 for x and y axis. Negative 1, negative 4, 0, negative 3, 1, 0. Now the question asked at this point is, where's the vertex? Is it going to be on the right side or the left side, and why? It's going to be on the left side because you can see that these points are getting closer together, and you know what a parabola looks like. As it's getting closer together, it's getting closer to the vertex, and then it will start going back up. So we don't know exactly where it is, but we can start making some more points, finding some more points, and then seeing where the vertex will be. Negative 2 squared is 4, minus 4 minus 3, so we get negative 3. Is this good or bad? Take a look that we have negative 3 and negative 3. So we have two values that are at the 2 points with the same y value. That's telling us the vertex has to be halfway in between 0 and negative 2. Now we can write that as x value of the vertex equals, I'm just going to show it in general, 0 plus negative 2 divided by 2. We also know that that average between 0 and negative 2 is just negative 1 anyways. Can we find another point to the left without actually plugging it in? Yes. We have a point here at 1, 0. So when we're looking at the vertex here, if we go to the right 1, up 1, we go right 1 again, we go up 3 this time, and it's going to be symmetric on the other side. So we go left 1, up 1, left 1, up 3. What would you guess if I went right 1 more? I'm going up 1, 3. The next one is going to be 5. We'll talk more about that towards the end of the year as to why that works. Now we're going to draw a nice smooth curve to it, and we want to make our graph look pretty even. We need to have 5 points when you're graphing a parabola. Now I end up having 7, and that's okay. You don't have to have that much, but you need to have at least 5 and make the graphs look even on both sides. Let's start putting in our information. We have the axis of symmetry here. Axis of symmetry. And that is, it's a vertical line. Recall when we write an equation of a vertical line, it's always x equals. That's x equals negative 1. And our vertex, we already knew was negative 1, and we plugged it in up there. So negative 4. And that's here. We have our y-intercept. And our y-intercept we already did was 0, negative 3. And then we have our x-intercepts. Now when we had our y-intercept, let's just kind of review on how to find all these things in general. Our y-intercept is when x equals 0, and that point was 0, 3. Our x-intercepts is when y equals 0. Let's assume for a second we had not made the table. Another way to get started, instead of making a table, is we could just find these key values immediately. So if y equals 0, we'll have 0 equals x squared plus 2x minus 3. Factor that. X and x, we know 3, 1, and 3 has to be positive and 1 is a negative. So we have x minus 1 equals 0, x plus 3 equals 0. For now, I want to see this step, and we get x equals 1 and negative 3. And we saw that in our table. Well, actually, one of the values in the table, and then the other one was a symmetric point. Let's assume we had not made this table. If I have these two values, where is the x value of the vertex? It's at the midpoint of those two values. So I could take these two and say 1 plus negative 3 divided by 2, which gives me negative 1. And then I could plug in my negative 1 into the equation, and I have 1 minus 2 minus 3, so I get negative 4. So that gives me the point negative 1, comma, negative 4. And we've done everything. We've labeled and found and labeled the vertex, axis of symmetry, x and y axis. So this, as a review, this can be done to start off. Instead of making our table, we can find the x and y intercepts. And then we found our vertex, and we can find a symmetric point to the y-intercept, and we have our 5 points, and we can sketch that graph.